Welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. In this tutorial I wanted to show you how to transform an image like this into this. And the text tutorial is already on my website. If you go to my website, you go to tutorials, manipulations, and it should be here once it loads. Right now it's the first one, but it will be here on this list, so you can check it out here with all the details, stock images used and everything. What I will do is just, instead of doing what I did on my last tutorial, I will do everything from the start. So I will delete this layer mask. So if you want to download this stock image, this is a free stock image from DeviantArt. Watch the video description or go to my website, and there you have the link to this stock image. So let's start working on this. I will delete all these layers and start doing it from the beginning. So this is the base layer, the stock image, and the first thing I did is switch the foreground color to black, create a new layer. I called it background and fill it with black, just like that. And in order to create those shadows and darkness around the woman, you create a layer mask and get the brush tool. Select a really soft brush, and the size of the brush depends on the image, on the size of the image. You can also create a new layer if you want and paint with the brush like that, but I prefer to use layer masks. And yeah, select a soft brush, and with the brush selected, decrease the opacity to about 50% and also the flow, and just start masking this part of the image, also here on the bottom. Just like that. I'm not going to spend too much time masking here because it can take a lot of time. And once you masked the edges, go to the opacity and drop it to like 20% and the flow to 20% as well, and start masking the woman's shoulder, here the hands, and this part of the face. If you have a tablet, it's a lot easier because you don't have to change the opacity all the time. You can use the pen pressure to set the opacity, but I'm doing it with the mouse right now. I have a tablet as well, but I'm going to use the mouse in case you don't have, so that you can see. You can also do with the mouse. So you have to mask this part of the face because later in the tutorial I will place some sun rays here, so the light will be coming from here, and this part of the face will be illuminated, and the left side of the face will be in shadow. So mask this part here as well. Have to change the brush size quite often. Okay, let's add a bit more here. Now with the mask, this is the masking part, but we now have to deal with the details. I switched the color to white, and I will leave the opacity to 20% and start removing some of the darkness here on these flowers here, or whatever they are. this crown, and remove some of that darkness, reveal the original. As I said, you can spend some time here. I think it took me like half an hour to make this. Obviously I'm not going to spend so much time now, but oops, make sure you paint on the layer mask, not on the image. Just switch colors. I still want to reveal some of the light here, this part of the image. Okay, it looks okay now. You can apply some blur to this layer mask if you want. So go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and apply, I don't know, depends on the size of your image. You can apply some blur to have a smoother transition between the darker areas and the light areas. Remove. Okay, so this is my layer mask, and this is before and after. The next thing I did is I created a new layer, and I used the spot healing brush to remove this hair. So I reduced the hardness to like 10% and just start removing the hair. Make sure you have sample all layers on, otherwise you will have to paint on the original, and that's why I created this new layer. I will call it healing, and just start removing the hair. And also some imperfection on the face. Whatever you think it's not looking right, you can fix it with this tool. Also here on the mouth, it's just minor things, but you can spend time here and go over all the details. Here on the hand as well, a few spots. You can do this before you start masking, because now if you deactivate the layer mask, you see all this these lines here, because you sampled from all the layers, and that means you sampled from the background as well. But anyways, now comes a really important part of the tutorial, which is dodging and burning. I use it a lot. I will show you how to work with this non-destructively. So the first thing you have to do is create a new layer and call it dodge or dodge and burn, whatever you want, and go to edit, fill, and from this contents list choose 50% gray and click OK. And now change the blend mode to overlay, and now you can use the dodge and burn on this layer without affecting the original image. But I have an action for this, and if I press Ctrl Shift F3, I automatically create this layer and the naming and the blend mode. And I will now start using the dodge tool, and I'll start with the eyes. I'll set the exposure to 15. Just start and start dodging. Just go over all the highlights and over all the lines that you want to enhance. Set it exposure to like 10%. I'm using a soft brush and just going over all these details here. This process is time consuming, but you'll get some really nice results if you spend time working on this. Just like that, go over all the details, all the highlights, using the dodge tool. Also here on the hair. Now you can increase the brush size and reduce the exposure to like 6% and go over bigger areas like the nose, and just do the same, go over all the highlights. And you can also remove darker parts like this spot here. Basically you can reshape the face just using this tool if you have some experience and if you know how to use the light. And okay, that's okay. Let's go here over the hand and also here. You can also enhance the eyes with this tool. Increase the exposure. Like that. And we've just used the dodge tool. We still have to go with the burn tool now. Okay, let's see a before and after. Before, after. Now let's go with the burn tool. Set the range to midtones as well, and the exposure at 15%, just like with the dodge tool. And again, go over the edges where you have shadows. Let's decrease the exposure to 9%. few passes on the inside of the lips and where you have the shadows. And this part of the nose as well. Increase the brush size. Decrease the exposure even more. It's better to use low exposures and make several passes. Okay. Let's go with the eyes again. Increase the exposure to 24% in this case, and do something like this. I'm not sure if will get the same result as on the original tutorial, but I'm following the same process, so you should end up with something like this as well. So this is roughly what you have to do with the dodge and burn, so before and after. Obviously I would spend more time here, but just wanted to show you what you have to do here. Okay, before, after. Okay, so let's move on with the next thing you have to do. Now you can start making some color adjustments, and I used an adjustment layer, selective color, and I went to neutrals and just increase the cyans, and on the blacks do the same, increase the blues and cyan as well, and you get that bluish greenish look to it. Let's add some green as well. Okay, the next thing you can do is add some light effects. I created a new layer and I think I called it glow, I don't know, I don't remember. And use a soft brush. Make sure the opacity and the flow are at 100%. Change the blend mode of the layer to color dodge and select a dark color. When you're working with the color dodge, you have to use dark colors, and I'll show you why. I'm using this dark orange color, and if I paint here, you see the effect that I get. But if I choose this color, you see that it kind of burns the image, so that's why I have to use dark tones of color and just start painting over these small flowers, or I don't know what these things are. They look like some sort of plant. And if you want a stronger effect, just use a brighter color and just make a few strokes over these plants here. And then I created another layer, and I think I used linear dodge, and again create more glows, but I need a darker color. The linear dodge works best over dark backgrounds because you can see the glow that I get, just like that. Increase the brush size. I need a darker color. See how the glow was too strong, so okay, something like that. Okay, now we have those light effects. I will group them and see the before and after. When you're using color dodge on the first layer, you can change the color of the eyes if you want. So select a green color, not too saturated, and just paint over the eyes. It's too strong. With a darker tone, just paint over the eyes like that. Now you can see the before and after. You can also do the same on the lips. Use a gray color. It's too bright. Increase the brush size, and it's still too bright. I need a darker tone of gray. Something like that. Okay, so again, before and after. So we got the base here. Now you can create those sun rays, and for that you can use the polygonal lasso tool, and it's really simple to do. Just make some spikes like this. I'll do it again. Okay, and now you can fill this with white, and go to filter, blur, motion blur, and set the angle to match the direction of the rays and increase the distance. And you can apply this filter a couple of times like that. And now go to filter, blur, and apply some Gaussian blur, not too much because you still want to see some of the shapes. Something like that. And now you can drop the opacity until you get something like this. And here you go. And this is how you make sun rays. It's really easy. Now you can create the dust particles. So I create a new layer, name it dust, and get the brush tool. And this is where I used a custom brush, a custom made brush. Set the color to white, select a soft brush, and increase the size to something like this. Well, it depends on the size of the image, but something not too small but not too big. And open the brushes window. You can go to window, brushes, or press F5, and you get this window here. And activate shape dynamics, increase the size, then also activate scattering, set count to 1, and then activate dual brush. Now here you have some options which I think in the tutorial I didn't mention. You have some blend modes for the brushes. Multiply works really nice, and also linear burn. I think I will leave this one. And as the second brush I chose this one, the 14 pixels. Let's see, multiply. I think it works better maybe. Well, anyway, select any of these brushes here and change the blend mode. I will leave it to multiply for now. Set count to 1, increase spacing, also increase the size, and this is pretty much trial and error. You can test your brush live on the image. Okay, increase the size, decrease the size I mean, and increase the scattering here, also increase the diameter. And increase the spacing. Okay, let's see how it does. Okay, I want to increase the size. Okay, now you can start painting dust. If you just click and drag, you will not get some really good results. You have to paint some random particles. Like that. And once you have these shapes here, go to filter and apply some Gaussian blur until you get something out of focus like this. Maybe these are too big, the particles are too big, so use a smaller brush size. But it's pretty much something like that. Oh, you can also play with the opacity, but I didn't do that. That way you get different opacities. And if you want, decrease the opacity like that, and you can create more particles if you want to just duplicate that and move them around and make them smaller if you want and place them somewhere else like that, and increase the opacity. So that's how you make those dust particles. You can apply layer styles to this dust if you want. You can apply outer glow, increase the size and set the color to color dodge or something like that. Make sure the color is white, and I don't know, apply some outer glow if you want to. In some cases it works nice. Okay, now you can start making the final adjustments. I always use a stamp for that, so I press Alt, Control, Shift and E. I still don't remember the Mac combination for that, so you'll have to browse that or Google it or something, because I don't think you can create that from layer. It's not the same as merge visible, because that will take all the layers and create a new one, but you will lose all the layers, so you want to have those layers there. So for Mac you have to Google that. I almost always rename this to final, so that I know this is the final result, and I turn this into a smart object. You don't have to do that if you don't want. Once I have the smart object, I go to filter, render, lighting effects, and this is to make the final light, the final illumination effects. And I want the light to come from that part, and make it narrow like that and increase the intensity. Move to 15. Set the exposure to 0. Okay, let's see before and after. Before and after, it looks better. And click OK. And the reason why I made that into a smart object is because if I don't like the effect, I can double click here and go back and have the options here, because now this is a smart filter which I can always modify. And the last thing I did is just color adjustments. I created some curves or levels to increase the contrast like that. And the color adjustments, you can use selective color or color balance. I think I used color balance to give that bluish tone on the midtones, and the highlights and shadows are untouched, but you can add more cyan to the shadows. And that's how I got that effect. It's pretty similar, I think. Let's see the effect that I got. Yeah, it looks quite similar to this one. This one has more blues, but anyway, you can get something like this. So I hope you liked the tutorial. If you have any questions, just post a comment on YouTube or on my website, and just want to encourage you to share this article. Just tweet it, like it, share it on Facebook or on StumbleUpon or wherever you want. It helps a lot. So see you on the next tutorial.